Before we get into today's video, I need to say a big thank you to Darkspace for explaining destructive elements in games. It was really important as a source for me making this video. In this video, we're going to talk about what direction Rockstar is most likely to take when it comes to real world destruction in GTA 6. Everything from cars to skyscrapers. In this video, we'll take a deep dive. So in GTA 5, the car destruction left a lot to be desired. It was, well, rubbish. The cars didn't deform correctly and it felt a bit like a cartoon racing game. However, 5 years before the release of GTA 5, we had GTA 4, which showcased Rockstar's insanely good game engine, where cars were deformed in relation to where they were hit. The realism left hardly anything to the imagination, and it was an extremely well done attempt at realistic destruction. Before we continue, there's two main forms of vehicle damage in video games. Firstly, there's modelled damage, where the damaged car panels are modelled separately. Then we have simulated damage, where the damage occurs in real time. This is a technology that BeamNG uses. Now, in early GTA games, vehicle damage was essentially fake. What they would do is create a perfect model of a car with each individual panel modelled perfectly clean with no damage. Then they would also create every single panel as if it was damaged. Then when you bumped or crashed your car, your panel wasn't actually deforming or breaking, it was getting replaced with a damaged model of the same panel. In GTA 4, Rockstar uses this exact same model of replacing panels with defective panels. However, rather than having 10 replacement panels for the vehicles, Rockstar created a complicated map of vehicle damage that consisted of different variables that would affect how the car deforms on impact. This damage mapping included things like vehicle damage location, where was it hit, and what could that do to the panel. Basically, we had more complex panels within themselves that were more responsive to different ways they were hit. Now, of course, every single panel was textured with crash damage on top of it separately, as a separate model, but depending where the car was hit, it would then pull into a different database and put the correct damage panel in its place. It was this damage mapping that made GTA 4 so realistic, but also fun. If we take a look at BeamNG for example, a 20mph crash could completely damage the car, which is of course way more realistic than GTA 4 was, but the realistic damage that we saw in BeamNG was actually a little bit too realistic. In GTA 4, Rockstar had a perfect balance of realistic damage but also fun. When you're driving from one mission to another, you don't want to accidentally bump into a curb and bend your wheel in half and not be able to continue the mission. Having small little impacts or gently brushing past a truck or other vehicle shouldn't completely destroy your car. We want realistic damage, but we'd also still not like to be inconvenienced every 5 seconds in the game. In GTA 4, you could drive around, accidentally crash the car, yet still be able to complete your mission, or at least keep the car going for a short period of time within the game. In GTA 5, Rockstar went back to the more arcade style of playing, and I remember two things very clearly from September 2013. Which is when I first got GTA 5. Firstly, I loved the handling of the cars relative to GTA 4. The handling in GTA 5 was much easier and it made driving way more enjoyable, but I will never forget stealing the Audi R8 whilst playing as Franklin in one of the first missions and crashing the car at about 70 mph, all to realise nothing happened to the car. The bumper was hanging off slightly, but that was about it. After 5 years of playing GTA 4, I had preconditioned myself to expect way more from crashing in the game, and this left me extremely underwhelmed. So this now brings us on to GTA 6, and before we dive into GTA 6, I just want to say I now have a second channel, which is where I post my unhinged waffling without all of the cuts, and I'll also be talking more about other topics plus behind the scenes of this channel. It's linked in the description of this video, so go and check it out. So in GTA 6, it's believed that Rockstar will be using a hybrid between the GTA 4 and the Red Dead Redemption 2 engine. It's hard to really comment on the crash physics from Red Dead Redemption 2, as of course we didn't have cars, but the wagon certainly had destructive elements. For example, when you shot the spokes individually, they would break off. The mapping on these wagons was far more complex than anything we've seen on any GTA vehicles. We know from what we've seen from Rockstar so far that there's a clear emphasis on realism, but the issue with that is that we have no idea how far they're going to take it. Of course, the BeamNG style of simulation would be insanely cool, however it could get extremely annoying that curbing your wheels could write off your car entirely. So hopefully Rockstar found a happy ground between the simulation style of BeamNG but also the playability of GTA 5. That should leave us with something that's very similar to GTA 4 in terms of crash damage. Talking about physics, it's probably worthwhile taking a look at the character and world physics. In GTA 4 we had very advanced Euphoria. Euphoria is a physics simulation engine by the developer Natural Motion, and this was the engine responsible for the realistic ragdoll effects we had in GTA 4, and a revised version of this was also used in Red Dead Redemption 2. So we can say with some degree of confidence that we can expect to see this in GTA 6. Red Dead Redemption 2 was kind of Rockstar's playground and testing site for the future entries of all of their game franchises, mainly speaking GTA 6. So let's talk about real world destruction. So in 2021, Rockstar posted a job listing for a VFX artist to work on real world destructive events. The listing stated, "We help to bring extra life to the environment, characters, weapons, vehicles and more. The visual effects help to immerse the player in a believable world, from using ambient effects for things like insects around the player and rain dropping off buildings, up to large-scale destruction events like skyscrapers crashing to the ground. Our technology is used to tie the world together. Weapons create bullet impacts, vehicles kick up dirt, smoke, and leave debris when they crash. Objects get dirty when they fall in mud." So this clearly shows that Rockstar are looking into the future back in 2021 at what realistic world events they'd like to see in GTA 6. Now I've seen some people say that this is for GTA 5 Online. I can't think of any single instances where water falling off buildings and running down glass and dripping off buildings and stuff has been a key part of GTA 5 Online. I think this is more likely to be for GTA 6, and hopefully you guys think the same. But also this matches up perfectly with when we got the leaked gameplay in 2022, which kind of shows that this game has been in development since 2019 and then active final development began in 2022. So we get a rough idea that this is exactly in line with the production cycle for GTA 6. Now in a lot of modern video games, building destruction is just an animation sequence that is triggered by an event. For example, you could fire rockets at a building until the animation sequence begins, and effectively you get almost a cutscene within the engine of that building falling down. But some games actually use realistic destruction methods, such as Red Faction Guerrilla, which uses a physics model in combination with complex building models to cause realistic destruction. The best way to explain this is that we can imagine in most games a building is a cube, but in Red Faction the building consisted of hundreds of cubes that were loosely attached together. So when an external force interacted with the conglomerate of cubes, for example an RPG, they would individually disperse, causing the appearance of realistic and unique destruction depending on the angle they were hit at. Now that explanation was an oversimplification, as there are object stress criteria which stops the building from collapsing under its own weight. So you would have to attack the object for it to enable the destruction of the object. But overall you get the general idea. Rather than one cube, it's made up of thousands of cubes or hundreds of cubes. Now we need to talk about the drawbacks of this. Yes, unfortunately there are limitations, and the biggest one is GPU usage. For full-scale, realistic destruction of a whole map, that's insanely graphics card intense. In GTA 6, it's very likely that there may be one or two real-world destructive events, potentially linked with weather, storms, or maybe even real-world activities such as crashes or explosions. But I'm not entirely sure about the idea of every building being destroyed by external factors. I think we may be able to damage buildings, for example see segments of wood and bricks flying off the buildings when we shoot them or have an explosion next to them, but full scale destruction is maybe a bit of a stretch, and I'll explain why. Imagine you're playing as Lucia in downtown Vice City in a car with everything rendered in, including the car's interior, and potentially the interiors of the buildings around you that are enterable. Even using localized rendering with all of this happening in a close proximity to your character, that's already quite intense. Then the building next to you blows up for some reason, and you're running away through all the high density smoke, dust, fire, and particle effects. NPCs are going crazy and running past you, and you run into a local shop to get shelter from the falling debris. Then the building you're in breaks into 50,000 tiny pieces, all of this being rendered on this. Maybe you can see what I mean. I'm just not sure. I think it could potentially be done, but it's just hard to picture with how complex every other element of the game seems to be from what we've seen and heard so far. I think the only way it would be possible is if Rockstar found a way to really optimize the graphics processing for the game to make it easier on the PS5 and Xbox. I know there's a lot of amazing PC builds that still probably wouldn't have much joy trying to render this scene without at least dropping a lot of frames. So making sure that this can work on every single PS5, even the older ones that were made in 2018, without causing any significant overheating or hardware issues. I don't know. I'm not as knowledgeable on this particular topic when it comes to games console graphics processing, but from everything I've heard from a lot of people out there, the fact this game is coming out on PS5 has raised a lot of eyebrows to, okay, maybe the game's going to get pulled back a little bit in terms of the graphical abilities and how intense some of the gameplay will be. Yes, the PS5 is incredibly capable, and there's a lot of games out there that are able to create incredible scenes which the PlayStation 5 has no problem rendering, but when we're talking about like potentially 50,000, 100,000 particles jumping off a building, alongside the whole area around that all being rendered in, it is a bit of a task for a games console like the PlayStation 5. Of course, I know the game's been released on Xbox as well. A lot of people pulled me up that I don't say PlayStation and Xbox. You know what I mean, this generation of consoles. So yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. I'm really keen to hear what you think we'll see in terms of real world destruction. I know a lot of people have gone like 100% on everything, saying that we'll have all of this, all of that, all of this, all of that, and not quite realizing the limitations of the consoles that we have at the moment. I'm not a PC user and I don't have a gaming PC, so I'm not a PC fanboy. I am a console boy through and through, but I think I can look at this objectively and say Rockstar's going to have to work around some of the limitations we have, and it's going to be interesting to see where they cut back and what areas they cut back. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts down below, and make sure you follow the second channel and subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.